Welcome to Model Aviator. When Adam reached out and told me that he wanted to do a Flying Cowboys Tribute Carbon Cub model aircraft, I was absolutely stoked. And the immediate answer from me was, that is awesome. So enjoy this video that Model Aviator put out. And on behalf of all the Flying Cowboys, thank you so much for the, just for the honor to be featured on your aircraft. And I hope to be able to get together with some of you guys and fly some model airplanes. I haven't flown model airplanes in years and years. And maybe I should just get back into it, because that stuff is fun. Anyway, flying around in my Cub, having a great time today. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the video.
Thank you, Cory. What's up, everybody? It couldn't be more perfect that Cory Robin be a part of this episode. This is the Flying Cowboys Tribute Carbon Cub, and after all, Cory Robin and the Flying Cowboys are the inspiration for this airplane for me. I started watching Cory's channel first and discovered the other Flying Cowboys through Cory's channel. It is a group of bush pilots that Cory started. Great group of people. They're all into slightly different things other than just flying bush planes. They do a lot of that together, but they do so many other things. They get everybody else involved, and together they are just great for aviation. They're even great for the planet. You need to check them all out and see what you think of it. I think you'll be very entertained and very inspired yourself. There'll be a link to Cory's channel in the description, and you can find links to the other Flying Cowboys channels through Cory's channel. And Cory sells awesome Flying Cowboys swag, so check out his merch store. Now, that said, this is the Flying Cowboys Tribute Carbon Cub. This is a Hangar 9 15cc Carbon Cub. Has a 91-inch wingspan, and ours weighs 13.5 pounds, ready to fly. And this airplane is advertised as 5th scale, but when you do the math, it's actually a little bigger than that. It's somewhere between 1/5 and 1/4 scale. So a good size airplane. We will have a setup page that shows all the equipment that we outfitted this airplane with. It's an ARF, so it doesn't come with any of the electronics. You get to choose the kind of equipment you put in. We'll list all the equipment we used, and we give you our full setup. So what you're going to see now is we're going to go through a detailed walk around of the airplane where we show you all of the departures from the instructions, the liberties that we took to make the airplane exactly what we wanted it to be, to make it perform as a scale STOL plane, which is what our mission, and of course promoting the Flying Cowboys. Those are the two things we do with this airplane. So yeah, we're going to show you that. You'll see the setup page, and then we're going to fly this baby for you. So check this out. Now we're going to show you all the graphics. All these graphics are from Callie graphics. They're vinyl, and they look oh so good. I highly recommend Callie if you need any work done for your RC aircraft, among other things. Down here on the gear, of course, we're rocking the Best Tugs logo. That's Mark and Mike Patey's company. And here's a subtle one you probably wouldn't notice if I didn't point it out. These are Valdez STOL Contest stickers, just like you'd see in the window of airplanes that have competed there. I came up with this N number. It's a lot smaller than the N numbers that came with the airplane. 7745 Lima. 7 is my favorite number, and I just thought 45 Lima would sound really cool on radio, to be perfectly honest. This, Kevin Quinn's brainchild, STOL Drag, which with the help of the other Flying Cowboys, among some other friends of Kevin's, is now an actual new class at the Reno Air Races, which is amazing. First new class in 20-something years, I think. That one trips people up. It's not what you think at first glance, but once you see it, it's pretty obvious. And this is the names of all of the Flying Cowboys. Cory Robin, Mike Patey, Trent Palmer, Jason Sneed, Mark Patey, Kevin Quinn, Scott Palmer, Creighton King, and Steve Henry. Now that was at the time that I built this airplane in 2018. We've had it a while. Those were the names listed on Cory's website at the time. The super tough looking Cub here, the SS Cub, and that SS, by the way, is for Carbon Cub SS. Don't be getting any crazy ideas. This was inspired by a decal that Jason Sneed, one of the Flying Cowboys, has on the wing of his Carbon Cub. When we put our flaps down, of course, it says Flying Cowboys. This is our pilot. We call him Little Cory. Now, Little Cory looks a good bit like Cory Robin. Nice, clean cut, presentable fellow. It's actually the bust of one pilot, the jacket from another, and I had a little mic on his little Bose headset. I'm sure Bose is what Cory uses. If not, I'm only really stupid. Anyway, so we're using this for an interesting reason. I used this right off the bat when we built the airplane, but then we saw Cory flying in Alaska in a borrowed Carbon Cub with this paint scheme, and we thought, hey, cool. Cory's actually flown a Carbon Cub that looks like that. That's even better. But then Miss Chandra Sly Fox Patey bought that exact airplane. So now Mike Patey's wife, Chandra, owns that airplane. So I have looked high and low, since she currently owns one that looks like ours, to find a female pilot bust that I could make a pilot out of. And oddly enough, I either can't find one pretty enough to be Miss Chandra, or if I do find one that's pretty, they look like a hooker for some reason. I don't know why, but Miss Chandra is nothing short of an angel, so we can't have that. So until we find a female pilot figure that would do to be Miss Patey, we're going to stick with Little Cory. Here we have Little Cory in his seat. You can see we even went to the trouble to make the cloth backing on the rear seat like a Carbon Cub SS has. You can see there where we've kept the wires kind of out of sight, out of mind. Alright, we're going to peek into our hatch in the Hangar 9 Carbon Cub. One thing you'll notice right off the bat, these holes are where you screw the hatch in. That's what is called for in the instructions. You can see we've got rare earth magnets that we installed here. That just makes removing the hatch and pilot much, much quicker. And given the way we do things, that's much more convenient. So all the electronics are able to fit in this spacious hatch. You can see our AR8010T receiver. We have the telemetry antenna and the antenna that comes off the receiver, as you can see, in antenna tube. And it's got two satellite receivers, one that goes to the front, one that goes to the rear behind the passenger seat. And all that stuff is oriented in a position to where we have dual diversity. So regardless of the position of the airplane, we have two antennas that can receive the transmission from the transmitter. This is our EDR117 RCP. That's a programmable light switch from Electrodynamics. That controls the wigwag lights that we have in the wings. And then the Velcro we have here, that is for our 4.8 volt 750 milliamp nickel metal hydride pack. That's what controls the lights. And then the strap here is for our receiver pack. That's for our Pulse 860 milliamp 2-cell LiPo RX pack. And we are able to use that pack because we're using high-tech D625 servos throughout the airplane. Those are high voltage servos that are rated for actually a little bit more than 8 volts of a 2-cell LiPo, as is a Spectrum receiver. And here we have our batteries in our hatch ready to go. That's our light pack. This is our receiver pack. And what we have is essentially this lead here that plugs into the light pack. We leave that plugged in. Each time we fly the airplane, we have to get in here and move the pilot out of the way to make plugging up the flight pack easier. Flight pack is right here underneath the dash. So we've been able to eliminate the switch by having a lead that comes off the receiver, and we just take our battery and plug our receiver pack in, and bypass the failure point of a switch each time we fly the airplane. We got to be here anyway, so we just plug and unplug it to turn the receiver on and off. And then of course, putting our hatch in, because of our magnets and on one end and the tongue and groove on the other, is really easy to get little Cory in and out of there and get to all this stuff. So yeah, pretty convenient. Wanted to go over a couple of things on these electronics with you. Our plug for our receiver pack that comes off of our receiver is made from 2 extensions that we just simply cut and soldered into an EC3 connector. We plug it into the receiver, since we have a bunch of extra channels, in 2 places just to have 2 positive connections. If for some odd crazy reason that one of these connections did not work, we have a second one, a redundant connection, feeding voltage to the receiver. The other thing we wanted to point out is most receiver packs, including these pulse packs, actually come with an EC3 connector as well as a regular, I guess you'd call it a servo connector. We have cut that off specifically so that when we're in there plugging this stuff up, we can't get the one coming off of our 2-cell LiPo mixed up with the one coming off of our 4.8 volt nickel metal hydride battery. And the reason for that is, if you plug a 2-cell LiPo up to those LEDs, you smoke them. Ask me how I know. We're not only using the electrodynamics light box and controller, but we're also using their LEDs as well as their day bright intensifying lenses that you see here for the landing lights. Those lenses make their already bright LEDs even brighter and spread the light over a larger area. Alright, you can see here, here, and here we actually have some lines that we traced around the battery tray. That makes it easier to get the battery tray lined up perfectly when we're putting it in. It's tongue and groove towards the front of the airplane, and then a single Phillips head screw that goes in here. So putting the battery in goes something like this, and just that fast. As you can see, we've got the tray lined up, and we just come in with a Phillips head screwdriver and tighten it down, and that's it. This is one of the things we did just to kind of tidy things up, keep the wires nice and neat. You can see here we've just hot glued the connections for flaps and ailerons so that you don't have any wires moving around loose in the cabin. And there is our connection for the lights. With almost every Cub kit or ARF, and the Carbon Cub is no exception, they call for the front windscreen to be installed by gluing it on with canopy glue. I never do this. I like the look of the tiny self-tapping screws that I get from Micro Fasteners, as well as the option to take that windscreen off pretty easily if need be, so that I can get an arm through the front if I need to work on the interior of the airplane or if I need to replace it. One of the departures from stock for us was with the articulating main gear. I've flown a lot of scale STOL planes the way that we fly this. I've done a lot of testing over the years with these things. I've used everything from rubber bands to O-rings to what you see here, which is actual bungee material. And I can tell you beyond any shadow of a doubt, in my opinion, the best material to use is bungee material. When you use actual bungee material, and you get the right amount through testing, you have an articulating gear on your large-scale Cub model that will work very similar to the way the articulating gear on a full-scale Carbon Cub would in a lot of STOL situations, including the drop-in technique, where you're coming along in ground effect, dragging the plane in, you got the nose up, you're a bit high alpha, you've got flaps, you're riding some power, you're pretty deep in the elevator. You get to the line and you chop the power, stow the flaps, and pull back on the stick to just stall the airplane in place and drop it in. In this airplane, that could be from as high as 8 inches to maybe even a foot. Now, if I do it from a foot, I've made a mistake, but it happens. Typically, I'm looking 6 to 8 inches. But that much of a drop with an airplane that weighs almost 14 pounds, it really takes well-performing gear to soak that up properly and not bounce the airplane all over the place. And with this material, it works exactly the way it should. The Carbon Cub comes with pretty much the same tail wheel assembly type as any large-scale Cub model, and that's a 2-spring system. You got 2 springs that attach here and then come back to 2 little mounts on the tail wheel assembly. And this particular one wasn't very good. Couldn't get a whole lot of deflection no matter how you rigged it. I couldn't find a set of springs to make it better. So we elected to go with an Extreme Flight 30cc carbon fiber tail wheel assembly. That tail wheel assembly does 3 things for us. The first thing is, a lot of times in STOL operations, you get the airplane in high enough alpha to, at times, touch tail wheel first. The fact that this is a fairly large tail wheel assembly and it mounts in 3 places and it's carbon fiber, the carbon fiber will soak up some of it, and the fact that it's mounted over a larger area distributes that stress to a larger portion of the airframe, so you're less likely to hurt that. The other thing is, it enables you, because it's a big assembly, to put this 2-inch Dubro tail wheel, which is pretty heavy, and that helps us get the weight a little bit more toward the rear, like we want to for the kind of operations we're doing with the airplane, which is scale STOL. And finally, the tiller arm, which goes through a ball link. It's a pretty slick little system. We used a piece of aluminum so that we could put the ball link in something more positive and take some of the stress off of the wood of the rudder. But this gives you a tremendous amount of deflection, which means turning this airplane around in a really tight spot, right or left, is really, really good. So all those things, to me, just make the airplane better. The final piece of our gear puzzle are the Dubro 5.5-inch big wheels. We run them with no air. They're firm enough to support an airplane this size, yet soft enough to give both vertically as well as laterally, and really contribute to an overall gear system that I think is far superior to the system that comes with the Carbon Cub stock, specifically when you consider our mission. Okay, hope you enjoyed getting to know what makes this thing tick. We're going to go to the flying very soon. Before we do that, you're going to see a setup page. You'll notice on the setup page, there's a throttle curve programmed into the transmitter that limits power to 80%. That is in conjunction with propping it down from a 1610 to a 16.7. That combination renders full-scale Carbon Cub performance. So it actually takes full-scale STOL techniques to get a good takeoff. You can achieve the deck angle and actual realistic climb rate of an actual Carbon Cub, which is a very good performing airplane, but nothing like a model that's set to kill that can be off the ground in a plane length with no real technique and climb vertically nearly out of sight. You're not going to see anything like that in this flying. It's going to be scale flying. Everything you'll see an actual Carbon Cub can do. So we hope you enjoy it. Please like, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to check out Cory Robbins' channel. Click that link in the description. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next week. Believe it or not, I've got 175 flights on the Carbon Cub so far. It's one of my favorite scale planes to fly. What you're seeing here is footage we took last summer on a fairly calm day. The rest of the footage in this video was taken very recently, but in much windier conditions. Thought we'd start this one off with a normal takeoff rather than a STOL takeoff and a quick touch and go. The wind was blowing this morning for sure. Gusty, changing directions, made it interesting. right there I was testing the waters below the tree line over the pond. I have an interesting approach in mind, but the wind rolls over the trees and does weird things. I wanted to check it before I tried this. Here's a couple more short approach landings from the second flight that same morning. This first one's not as good as the second one. This one is much better, I think, because I took the time to go ahead and duck below the trees sooner and do a full circle around the pond much lower, so I was able to get the plane a lot slower and just worked out better all the way around. Footage you're seeing now is from a different afternoon, same venue, different direction. Very, very windy, very gusty. These are 4 very challenging landings that are going to show you exactly why you work hard to get the gear set up well on a plane like this. If you're mindful to keep the G low enough, you can do aerobatics in a full-scale Carbon Cub. You can roll them. That's a 1G maneuver if you do it right. Loop them. You can keep that down to 3 pretty easy. You can do hammerheads. You can spin them. And it's been done. You don't typically see guys filming it though. But we can for sure show you with the model. Got a couple more takeoffs and landings for you before we wrap things up. Hangar 9 Carbon Cub's a great flying airplane. When you get into larger scale planes like this, the added mass really plays to your advantage. They just fly more realistically. They handle wind better, which you've seen. They're pretty awesome. Here we're going to give it a go across the runway. I highly recommend Hangar 9's Carbon Cub if you're looking for a large-scale STOL plane. It's a great ARF. Don't forget to check out Cory Robin and the other Flying Cowboys. Click the link in the description. A lot of inspiration and entertainment to be had there. And with that, I'm going to sign off. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And enjoy the donut at the end. We'll see you next week.